Story 1: Paradox of choice. Dating sites, in particular, make people think that there's always something better out there. People treat dating like ordering a Whopper at Burger King and want someone to meet every checkbox on their wish list, rather than accept that all relationships involve compromise. Story 2: all have high standards about others but don't have high standards about themselves. Also, I have never heard any relationship advice that encourages forgiveness. One mistake and people who hear about it are saying, "Leave him, her," accusing the guy or girl of the most horrible things without taking into account that someone could just be venting and because of it is exaggerating or not mentioning his or her errors. Story 3: I think it's ultimately an underlying issue beneath a lot of what's being brought up here, but the decline of third spaces is significant. Being able to just organically meet people without first being presented with a big list of details, and without thousands of other options being a swipe away, is becoming rarer. Even in the ones that still exist, there does seem to be this energy now of only really engaging with those one already knows. I think that's understandable in many ways, especially from women's perspectives, but yeah, I can't say I'm not guilty either. I'm sure I've skipped over dozens of folks I might have genuinely had chemistry with on dating apps because there's this and that on their profile that turns me away. Story 4: for me, it's poor communication. Don't ghost me. Tell me you're not interested. It's not the end of the world, but it lets me know definitively instead of it being one of many other possible explanations. Story 5: they expect instant results. There is no space for a gradual path to truly know each other in real life, not through messaging. Using an analogy, people approach dating as if it were food that can be cooked in a microwave. Instead, it should be a dish that they have to prepare and cook themselves. Story 6: everyone wants Mr. or MS, absolutely perfect across all categories, and the paradox of choice makes them think it's out there. There's no more finding a good compatible partner and growing together. It's either all there in the first 6 weeks or they're moving on. Story 7: I think social media has fostered a sense of narcissism in a lot of people. Like, you are almost certainly not that handsome or pretty, rich, talented, or intelligent. So you need to take that into account when considering partners. You are an average person, so you will probably end up with an average partner. Story 8: illusion of choice. Everyone always has a foot out the door because their true love seems just one swipe away at all times. The apps are incentivized to keep you on them, so they don't match you up with people who actually like you unless you're paying. Even then, I think they try pretty hard to sabotage your experience to make sure you keep paying. Everyone just swipes forever and ignores all the good people they're passing over. Story 9: I must say, as someone with 3 children in their 20s, there are lots of self-isolating people today. Nobody has parties or gatherings, or at least not to the same degree as when I was single and dating. Story 10: impossible checklists of things that sound great on paper, to the people who have them I guess, but miss the fact that anyone trying or claiming to hit them all will be faking. Another bizarre aspect is the mindset that someone else must agree with you on every conceivable issue and like everything you like. To me, this signifies extreme narcissism. I have zero interest in being with someone identical to me. For starters, I am neither gay nor interested in incestuous relationships. Story 11: projecting your past experiences onto current partners. The women in my life treated me poorly, so I am going to put this one through difficult times to make sure she is worthy. I have had bad experiences with men being disrespectful towards me, so I am just going to start disrespecting them first, even if this particular man hasn't done anything to deserve it. Story 12: people lose the respect for others' feelings. Ignoring, acting mean, ghosting is very easy and common. Attitudes like boss lady or always put yourself first also result in the loss of common sense. There is always another real person with real feelings on the other side. At least give it a try to end things like a normal human being. Story 13: there's no respected social contract. People don't feel like they owe anyone anything despite the fact that everyone is putting themselves out there to try to find love or even just hookups. Be a decent person and treat others as humans instead of just hunting for the perfect person that doesn't exist. Story 14: people don't know how to talk to each other, in person or on the internet. Men and women are so polarized and out of touch with reality that they expect some mind-blowing introduction or date. I would rather go back to middle school where you wrote a note saying, "Do you like me? Yes, no, or maybe." And you passed it to that person via 10 other people in class. Story 15. Apps and online dating present a unique challenge. You and the other person you talk to have basically zero investment in the experience, and the app will happily present another 500 options for you at a moment's notice. This often results in a lot of frustration and ghosting, and the dating is a numbers game attitude just serves to make the whole process feel like a huge grind. It shouldn't be a surprise that the apps with higher rates of actually pairing people are the ones with higher barriers to creating an account. Story 16. A lot of people want to jump right to social media or online dating, but I think a lot of where we are with the current dating scene is also significantly related to how we grew up. A huge chunk of the dating scene right now grew up in an era with extremely high divorce rates. I personally venture that many of us grew up witnessing unhappy marriages firsthand and reacted very strongly to make that not happen. But I think we're in the period of overcorrection, where everyone is too guarded or picky because they're trying to find happiness. We've forgotten that it's not just selecting better partners, but also commitment and willingness to work. A good relationship shouldn't be toxic and draining, but it's also not effortless. Too many people I encounter seem to bail out at the first sign of struggle. There's no one culprit or biggest problem here. Dating has changed because of a confluence of societal changes. You have the divorce era, the internet, increasing independence of women, etc., all coming together to change the dating scene into what we have today. Story 17. Everything. People look at dates and relationships as transactional. No one is kind, caring, or respectful. Hookup culture is gross. People are selfish, awful. No one has any heart or soul anymore. If you're a dude and show any kind of emotional vulnerability, you're immediately a red flag. If you're a woman, you're too emotional and needy. I hate this planet. Story 18. Impatience and super short attention spans. Few want a long-term partner. They all want something casual. Those who do want long-term relationships need that person to be perfect in every way from the beginning. No working on things together, just instantly find a soulmate or nothing. Story 19. It's way more possible than ever in history to be single, for men and women, kids or no kids. The pros and cons of being single or partnered are almost exactly 50-50. It is very difficult to figure all this out. Most people can't, and you don't really have to figure it out. It's often just way easier to not figure it out and move on. Personally, I feel lonely in relationships and I feel lonely out of relationships. So instead of keep trying relationships, I am working on being okay with being lonely. It's actually working okay so far, and a lot less stressful and less expensive money and energy-wise. Not saying this is the answer to anything, just my highly subjective personal anecdote. Story 20. A lot of people expect you to be constantly available via text now, like getting annoyed with responses that aren't within their idea of a reasonable time frame throughout the day. That stresses me out, and I hate it. Story 21. People don't have community anymore. Relationships, marriages, families exist within a particular context. Small town, extended families, church, tribe, etc. Most everyone you meet in these contexts holds similar frames of reference, values, backgrounds, and histories. In fact, the only consistent frames of context these days are school and jobs. People are so much more mobile. They don't know their neighbors and move away from family and friends. This means that the only potential mates you encounter are complete strangers. It's also why dating apps are so horrible. Just strangers without context. You have heard the saying, "It takes a village to raise a child." It also takes a village to meet your mate. Story 22. That it is all based on fraud. The most cliché dating advice is be yourself. But if we're being honest, very few people actually do that. It somehow became acceptable to put on a facade in order to get a partner, and then when that facade is finally dropped, we act all shocked when the whole thing blows up, and somehow the person being deceived was the troublemaker. Make that make sense. Doesn't matter what it is, pretending to like things, having children from previous relationships, even keeping a tidy home, far too many people are willing to deceive someone to get what they want in the hopes that by the time the truth comes out, the other party will be too invested to dismiss them. In any other circumstances, this would constitute fraud, but it's become so normalized that people just accept it. Instead of having the decency to say, "This is me," and give a potential partner the full picture, far too many people try to con them. Pro tip: they're going to find out eventually. Better it happens early on before you invest enough of your energy, because if it was a deal breaker early on, it's still a deal breaker later. Story 23. Speaking from the outside looking in, I'm in a relationship for almost 3 years now. Everyone thinks everyone sucks except for them. Most likely, you're all contributing to the problem in some way, but don't have the humility to take a hard look at yourselves and admit it. You can't say everyone sucks and think you're the exception. Life doesn't work that way. Story 24. To be honest, I think pornography has wrecked the lives of many people of the modern generation and creates unrealistic fantasies of what the sexual life between couples should look like. Story 25. People being unwilling to engage in emotional labor. I don't want to be in a relationship just to be in a relationship. The relationship should bring both partners security, fulfillment, joy, and passion. Some of these qualities are innate but often require cultivation and emotional labor. Story 26. I think people are too set in the idea of we're dating/seeing each other with the intention of romance and seeing others through that lens instead of, hey, let's just get to know each other normally as a person. It's like people meet with the intentions of meeting their next romantic partner, not with the intentions of meeting a new person. I don't know if that makes sense. Story 27. Dating today is a mess due to too many options and the pressure from social media to look perfect. We're caught in a cycle of comparing, swiping, and seeking validation, which prevents us from forming real connections. Instead of going deep, we remain on the surface, pursuing quick moments of approval. The challenge lies in breaking free from this cycle and focusing on genuine, face-to-face relationships where real growth can occur. Story 28. I feel like one of the big problems with online dating specifically is that the introductory or expository conversation, where you are from, what you do for a living, what you are looking for, and so on, is usually done electronically before you meet. This means that the first date conversation is usually either a rehash of what you've already talked about or awkward small talk. I feel like this greatly inhibits the odds of natural chemistry presenting itself between the two participants. Story 29. People think that just because they find someone else attractive it means that their current partner has failed in some way and they deserve better, while failing to realize that long-term relationships require effort. You have to choose to continue to compromise and love that person. It's not going to be butterflies forever. Story 30. Specifically on dating apps, it just becomes way too easy to swipe left or right for trivial reasons, whereas in person, we are much more inclined to get to know someone before judging. The number of people I swipe left on because they use your in place of your is just stupid. Maybe the love of my life is out there waiting for me to teach them the difference. Story 31. The biggest issue is from social media. Entitlement for sure, but I think a lot of it has to do with what we're expected to like. Nowadays, you date to impress, not who you like. It's also why people are breaking up, cheating, and divorcing left and right. I've lost count of the number of relationships I knew where it's obvious they were dating for superficial reasons. It's sad. You should like who you like and not give a damn about anyone else's opinion. You are dating them, not everyone else. Relationships went from being personal and private to literally vlogs and internet personalities. Story 32. Many people are choosing to block and completely terminate relationships instead of working on repairing them, likely because the internet and online dating give the impression that there is always another option. Of course, there are situations, such as with abusive and criminal actions, where no contact is necessary. However, this is not due to what is popularized as red flag trends on TikTok. Story 33. Pornography has built a large cohort of men with very warped views on sex. I am far from a prude, and I certainly do not believe sex has to be within the loving context of a relationship. I had a gloriously promiscuous youth. I was only asked for anal once, and my response, "Nope, not since hemorrhoids," was enough to not be asked again. No one ever choked me, slapped my face, or spat on me. The principle of no glove, no love in the 90s did not get much pushback. If I got any, That was enough for me to leave, as I figured some other girl was probably naive enough to agree. Young women watch pornography too, and many see this as normal as well. I am not kink shaming. I know people enjoy all kinds of things, but it gives a sense of everyone's doing it. Must be something wrong with me. Story 34. Hookup culture. For me, on most dating apps, people aren't looking for anything serious and just want to fling, but don't state that on their profile or anytime during the talking stage. So, I'm out here clowning, thinking they want something more serious and catching feelings, only to be hit with the, "Oh, I'm not looking for anything serious," and then get ghosted.